everybody, and welcome to our third applicant rundown episode here at the Combot Collective, bringing you everything you want to know from the world of robot combat, from the heavyweight class to the flyweight class, from Battlebots to the live circuit, as we talk about 3 more Battlebots hopefuls here today, and 3 teams that have actually been at Battlebots before, 2 of which have been at the reboots. We're going to be talking about Team Bot Dudes with Huggy Bear, of course, Team AMF with Trilobot, and Team Danby with Apex 250. Two of these latter 2 teams we are very familiar with for robots like Sharkoprian, Sharko, Predator, and of course Slammo from recent Battlebots seasons. But we kind of do have to go a little bit back with our first robot here, the Bot Dudes with Huggy Bear. We're going to be talking about all 3 of these robots though here very shortly at the Combot Collective. Stay tuned.
Oh my God! Wow! This is the biggest flame we've ever seen.
Has preserved enough energy to get in the flip on Carbine. We're gonna go all the way. Oh my God! That's gonna hurt. Grab the milk, Jenny.
Welcome to the Combot Collective.
So as we start our application discussion here, we got some old head teams that we're talking about today, as all the way back on March 30th, we're playing a bit of catch up this time. A friend of the Bot Dudes and captain of the Robotic Death Company, John Mladnick, would post the following on Facebook. Hugs and Kisses is coming out of retirement to apply to Battlebots for Season 7. Here's a video from back in the day. Dave Schultz of San Diego also had a more famous middleweight that was larger than most heavyweight names, Huggy Bear. I actually didn't realize that last sentence. Me and Pory were just talking about how, I don't know, that sentence is necessarily true. I think John was trying to gas up his friend Dave here, but I do love Huggy Bear, and a lot of fans are familiar with the bot, a lot of the old school fans, but I don't know about that big. But we do have some interesting, oh my goodness. It is sweet, though, to see John being like that. But yeah, we do have some interesting news here. We haven't had much news since this post, but as said here, John did say, it looks like Hugs and Kisses and the Bot Dudes are looking to try to get back in the robot combat scene for a second time, making an attempt to apply for Battlebots 2022/23. But, yep, no social media, no pictures or no news, no context anywhere about this robots update or its status. But John did provide some footage that we have playing here about the last competitive appearance for Hugs and Kisses, which you would have to go all the way back for, Battlebots 2009, the Pro Championship, where, of course, right here, Hugs and Kisses would compete against Vaults, the former heavyweight before Ice Wave that Mark DeWitz had. But that was all the way back 13 years ago. If you go all the way back 20 plus years ago, you can go find Huggy Bear, the robot which this whole Huggy family is inspired by. It appeared on Comedy Central from seasons 3.0 to 5.0, and even appeared on TV once at least every season. Had matchups on television against T-Minus, against Sabotage, but most notably against Double Agent, where Huggy Bear was able to really show off that sort of design of robot where it can just swoop in, push robots around using that a massive size. Something that we really would see a lot in modern day robots. Just look at the 2018 Warhead, look at Mammoth, look at a lot of the hammer saws like Sawblaze and, you know, Scorpius, robots that kind of use that big fronts. Me too. Robots that use that big size to push your opponent around. Well, of course, Comedy Central Battlebots was over 20 years ago. Battlebots 2009, 13 years ago. This is an even longer gap that the Bot Dudes are taking on here. It's going to be interesting to see what they would do with a version of Huggy Bear in a slightly bigger class from 220 pounds to 250 pounds. What are y'all's thoughts on the Bot Dudes potentially returning to Battlebots? Your thoughts on Huggy Bear? What are y'all's opinion?
I want them to get in, to be honest. There's been a lot of applicants this year where I'm like, no shot, or just that I don't really want them to get in. But Hugs and Kisses is definitely not one of them, because I do definitely love the horizontal grabbers of horizontal crushers. You know, I'm a big fan of that style of weapon. So I would really appreciate it if Hugs and Kisses got in. I don't think it'll do that well if it does get in, to be honest, just because I feel like horizontal crusher is gonna struggle with the. Oh,
I think it would be a vertical spinner. I think it would be a lot more like Hugs and Kisses than Huggy Bear.
It has to be. Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, but it still has the horizontal crusher, and at the same time,
oh, that's fair.
Unless there's a redesign, which I mean, I'm sure there will be. Those vertical spinners, like those are gonna have a hard time hitting anything with the ground game meta that's going on, because those things are like mounted on the top. But
yeah, that is a good point.
I do think it'll struggle, but I think it'll be like a welcome addition to the field either way.
I for one, I would love to see a Hugs and Kisses or Huggy Bear in BattleBots. It's a unique design. It's got a fun gimmick, being, I suppose, really the only horizontal clamper to really ever exist. If they do commit to that, that would be fab to see. It's going to have a vert, obviously, because that's how you win BattleBots these days, or some kind of spinner. But I think that whole idea of it being able to grab someone and then maybe do either like a hammer saw kind of thing, where it like swings both ways and slaps people, grabs onto you and drags you. Because I don't think it can just be a grabber or a clamper. That's a dying breed these days in BattleBots, and
you gotta make some damage happen.
Yeah, ideally now you since the arena isn't going to facilitate that, you got to make the damage happen. So they're definitely going to bring some kind of spinner or maybe an axe. I like to think I think an overhead weapon be most ideal for this kind of design, because then if they grab onto someone, they can then bring that overhead weapon down onto them and do something with that. But yeah, I would love to see it in. I think it'd be great to see, I suppose, a classic competitor return. And with such a unique design, it would be a crime for BattleBots to ignore it for something generic and vertical spinnery.
Yeah, we certainly have seen a lot of generic vertical spinners applying for this, and some of them have, of course, piqued my interest. Bots like Swamp Thing. But like Swamp Thing, that's one of the reasons why I was such a fan of Swamp Thing. Past couple of seasons, of course, BattleBots is evolving. There isn't as much of a need to rely on those old Comedy Central teams now that we have this new brigade of machines. Robots like Uppercut and Tantrum coming in to be the new regulars of the sport. But, of course, being an old school head myself, an old school fan, that's why robots like Swamp Thing and Hugs and Kisses, who I remember seeing fighting robots like Double Agent and Team Minus back when I was a kid, on TV yet again. I really do think personally that the Hugs and Kisses design of robot, that oversized build, you know, we can see something with that we haven't really seen since Warhead in 2018. I know SME has sort of that similar design, but it is a bit sluggish. It lacks the pushing power that Warhead had and the size that Warhead had. I think we could see that potentially with Hugs and Kisses. The 2009 version had 6-wheel drive. It had decent pushing power, but like Pory was saying, it did struggle with the ground game a little bit, and it's such an important thing to have in this modern age of robot combat. But I do think this design can be super good for the meta against some of these more aggressive hyper-driving robots like Hypershock, to be able to get under them, be more tactical, and take them to these corner corrals. I think this robot can seriously take advantage of the negative space that the shelf does bring along with it. You know, shove those robots in the corners, keep them pressured, bully them around. Will it be able to do that? Of course, it's nice to say it could do all these things, and if it was built great, it could, but you have to see it in action. When you're gone for 13 years, there is a bit of a gap in experience. Just look at the Gamma 9 team. They make charming, beautiful robots, but they kind of struggle in terms of competitive ability because they are pretty much Comedy Central style robots at heart with their classic framing and hardware. We'll just have to see what happens with Huggy Bear. I really would like to see this robot in action yet again. The bot dudes make some great robots, but we're just going to have to see. So this is going to be a bit of an interesting one as we talk about a robot and a team that has been quite synonymous with the discovery area of robot combat, with this fantastic robot Sharkoprian, who of course retired at the end of the 2020 Bounty Tournament and now resides at the Norwalk Havoc venue. And the rumor was that Ed Robinson was going to be calling it quits after that 2020 season. It was a rough but memorable one for the Shark, as it had some notable matches against bots like Captain Shredderator and Slapbox. But Ed would resurface on the BattleBots subreddit in early 2022, discussing potentially coming back to the sport. There was a good bit of a quarrel and animosity between some builders and Ed Robinson, though, during that thread, which we're not going to try bringing up too much. That could be a whole video on its own, but it is something that is unfortunately tied to this Trilobot application, as on 21st April this year, Ed Robinson would show off his progress on this brand new robot Trilobot, revealing this brand new creation to be a 2-wheel drive horizontal spinner, very similar to robots like Tombstone and Valkyrie. The current state of the robot at the time, which Ed called the running frame, did not leave much to impress, but Ed did also provide some bamboo and digital illustrations of what this robot would end up looking like in its final form, taking this horseshoe crab kind of design with the tail and the back, very similar to all of his shark robots, waving around, which of course I'm a sucker for. But my big worry when I was looking at that original running frame was the weapon on Trilobot, but those design worries would be quelled a week later as Ed would post another video talking about the Hammer of Man, Trilobot's brand new weapon, which would be 3 20-pound sledgehammers on a Son of Waiachi style tri-bar. A lot smaller than Son of Waiachi's tri-bar, of course, but it's kind of a similar design. If you play Robot Arena 2, it's a bit like that tri-bar in that game, but I digress. On May 16th, there will be one final update on Trilobot as Team AMF would announce they are officially throwing their hat into the 2022 Battlebots applicant ring, sharing the application video, which wouldn't reveal too much, aside from that the Team AFF crew would have their original 2 members that were present in 2020, plus some other guy named Peter joining their ranks. Unfortunately, about a month after this development, more drama regarding Ed Robinson and Trilobot would sort of swirl around in the online robot combat community, as there would be some cease and desist drama threatened amongst 2 teams, and some surprisingly personal bashing amongst 2 other teams during this whole ordeal, with claims of some pretty bold words from various competitors and their actions. And despite all this drama and mudslinging, we would end up having a post from Team AMF on their Facebook page on July 3rd announcing that if Trilobot would be accepted into Battlebots 2022, it would officially be the team's final event and Ed Robinson's last event, of course. So that's where we sit on it right now. There has been a bit of drama from some of the East Coast teams dealing with Ed Robinson, some of the West Coast teams as well, to be honest. It has been very fascinating to see from this outside perspective, and we're not going to try to get too much into the spice of it all here, but we are going to talk a little bit about Ed and the robots. What are y'all's thoughts on everything going on here?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
Where do I begin? Let's pick a category. The robot itself. Okay, I really hate to be an armchair builder. I really do, but this robot's a piece of junk and it shouldn't get accepted. There's a lot of issues with Trilobot. Like, yeah, I love the shed builds. Don't get me wrong, I love Dale Spear, Black Widow, older Sharko even. You know, like, they're fun robots. But, like, this thing is, especially after seeing the test video, I have no hope for this thing at all. It's, I mean, the hammers are literally, like, off the shelf of, like, Harbor Freight Tools or something.
Yeah,
and they're just, like, welded together.
Hammers welded together.
Yeah. One of them literally flew off in the test video that they did. And, like, let's be real, this thing, let's say theoretically that these hammers do spin up. This thing's gonna hit a robot once, the hammer's gonna it's gonna be unbalanced for the rest of the fight, and then it's gonna get trashed. Like, this thing's, there's no shot this thing's gonna win a fight unless the other robot is, like, dead on arrival. Like, there's no shot. I don't think it's gonna get in. One thing that I will judge is the whole I'm retiring thing. Like, literally every season he's like, I'm retiring, and then he comes back the next season. It's like, bro, we don't believe you anymore. Like, what? Even I'm pretty sure even when the first Sharko competed in 2018, I'm pretty sure he was like, "Yeah, I'm retiring after the season."
I don't think he said it then. He had like some big attentions because of Excelsior and all. I thought at least.
Well, I think Excelsior might have been when he like retired. Then
that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
He's retired a lot of times. He's like, "Oh, I'm not." Then he brought Sharko back for an exhibition. Then he brought back the new Sharko. And that one, he definitely said he was going to retire. Even on the TV show. Like, this is his last roundabout. The next year, he's like, I'm going to do it. I mean, dude, like, no one believes you anymore. I'm sorry. And as for the other drama, I mean, I'm sure we could go into that. But let me just say, trying to sue someone for critiquing you on Reddit is literally, like, smooth brain move. That's fucking stupid. You're an idiot for doing it. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. I love your robots. I think you have a very good artistic mind. You're stupid if you think that you're gonna win a lawsuit for someone critiquing you on Reddit about robot combat.
Well, from an outside perspective, I haven't really heard much of the drama. I've only heard snippets of the drama as a whole. I know that I don't know if the whole underwear thing was anything associated with it. I think
it's a little bit.
I think a little bit. It a little bit, yeah. I like because now whenever I think about the Sharkorpian team, I think about that whole thread that happened, and that lives in my head rent free.
Yeah.
But the design of Trilobot, I mean, it looks neat. I mean, I like the machines that they make, but it also depends on the man that I suppose drives the machine and builds the robot. And from what we heard through the grapevine, that the Riptide team was not so very pleasantly. A few of them, I think, the team captain was. So I don't think they're going to be returning, as far as I know.
It'll be interesting to see for sure.
If these kind of, I suppose, drama things happen outside, it just only a matter of time before Battlebots kind of looks at this and just kind of thinks, do we really want this kind of individual inside of our sport? Because, I mean, like, Battlebots is becoming more popular by the year, regardless of the controversy that happens around it, and with all the rules and the way things go in the show, and there's no denying that there's still a strong fan base about it. So when a new fan is going to come in and probably look up who Sharkorpian is, they're probably now going to see that man ranting about not wearing any underpants. So it's generally something that I suppose they may need to consider, like, I suppose, not only the design of the machine, which may or may not get accepted at this point, considering they have said they've retired for at least 5 times. But now that if there are controversial posts that reside on their social medias and in that regard, and especially the whole lawsuit thing that's going on, that's new to me. Yeah, they may not just get in on the basis of that. You got a good machine, but your social skills need work.
Yeah, it's all a little bit rough.
I mean, hey, if he wants to keep taking L's to the Shredderator team, you know, that's fine.
It's so rough.
I mean, yeah,
it's so rough.
They could do with better armor. I can admit that. Yeah.
Well, here's my 2 cents on the whole thing. We were talking. I was suggesting this when we were talking a little bit about Doomba. You know, I thought this was a robot that I didn't think could make the main Battlebots season, but it had a lot of creative charm. And with how they were doing Battlebots Bounty Hunters, or I guess as we now know it, Battlebots Champions in 2021, giving these robots like Double Jeopardy, Perfect Phoenix, Big Deal these chances to still be at Battlebots, get the Battlebots experience, but not be a part of the main season. I really think that there's a slot for robots like Doomba and potentially robots like Trilobot as machines that are here that we can have in the pits. We don't need to have as many robots in the main season, so we can have potentially more fights next season, but still have these robots featured and potentially, you know, you win once, prove yourself, win twice, there you go. Now you have a chance to be in next season. I think this is a good spot for Trilobot to be, you know, maybe a Battlebots Champions exclusive robot. I do love, you know, Fantastic is probably one of my 10 favorite classic era robots. I love Ed Robinson. I love all the amazing machines he made. I was a big Excelsior head when King of Bots 2 was first announced. It's a shame to see what happened and all the aftermath of all that. And all the aftermath that's going on with Trilobot, because that's the big situation I have here. It's a bit like the Rick Russ thing with Ray Billings, you know. It'd be lovely to have Trilobot in there. Ed Robinson is from the Vegas region. He would be easy to get in there, but are we going to have Ed Robinson, who has now openly alienated 4 different Battlebots teams so far in the last month? We don't know what would that be smart to have? I mean, obviously they could just ignore him, but I feel like that's just a lot of animosity. You know, these teams, they all know each other. They all talk to each other. I feel like that's just something that Battlebots would have to consider, you know, having that good, healthy pit atmosphere that has always been one of the big high points of robot combat was the community, how it is in the pits, everyone lending each other parts, no drama. And I'm not saying that what Ed Robinson is saying was incorrect or that he's lying, because a lot of his statements were very specific and seemed fairly minor and petty to be something that he would be lying about. But that's the whole story for another video, and a video that I am personally not going to be doing. But I digress. I do love what Trilobot looks like as a robot. Even if it does lose a hammer and goes 0-1, I wouldn't mind seeing a Mauler dance in the 2022 Battlebots Champions bracket, if that's something that they do end up doing. But that's where we stand on it. Trilobot is a very interesting case that I guess only time is going to have to tell on. Now let's go to something a bit more lighthearted here as we go from the West Coast to the East Coast / UK with our last robot. The robot in our thumbnail, an interesting one at that. We are discussing Apex here, a robot likely familiar to a lot of our UK fans and a lot of our, maybe even some of our US fans. Apex has been a mainstay in the UK scene, being the region's signature glass cannon heavyweight for the better part of 6 years, appearing in both Extreme Robots and Robot Wars with bombastic but minimal results, and its most notable appearance being that Robot Wars Series 10 matchup against Traction where Apex would literally self-explode, just throwing its weapon right into the arena last and breaking it. Thankfully that Robot Wars Warzone had 2 layers of latex. Lexan. Lexan, not latex. Oh, this Texas heat's killing me, y'all. But it has been a long, windy road since that moment. But Apex has stayed active, competing in Extreme Robots 2018-2019, getting some wins there. And we've even seen it recently competing at Extreme Robots May back in 2022 in Portsmouth. That, though, was the Apex that we saw competing in Robot Wars back in 2017. This Apex Mark V, the one we're talking about today, is a horizontal spinner like we've never seen before, being built by Craig Danby in the East Coast, but likely will be captained by the British Chris Danby, still in the UK. This robot was revealed all the way back on December 22nd, 2021, as a 250-pound version of the 150-gram robot Danby made called Wells. This robot is essentially a starfish-looking robot. It's the classic Apex with 3 little tripod standing bits that are acting as wheel pods, and on the end are these little Omni wheels, which are designed to give Apex plenty of maneuverability to get around, along with giving it the ability to position the blade in numerous ways so it can attack robots from various angles. Craig Danby would continue to provide updates for this wild new Apex periodically over this year, while primarily posting about Slammo's updates for Robotica. But on January 29th, Apex would have its first update showing off its brand new legs being built and ready to run, while on March 29th it looked like Apex was almost fully completed, as Craig Danby said that he was intending to ship this version of Apex to the UK for testing at the Portsmouth event. That being said, no footage has surfaced of this Portsmouth testing, but testing in the United States would begin on May 31st, as Danby would share the weaponless Apex Mark V strafing all around the Team Danby workshop with some surprisingly impressive maneuverability. We would get some other small updates after the end of May, one of which being some footage of the new Apex trying to stand, trying to take on some new angles, and other being pictures of the new wheel caps which are going to be placed over the Omni wheels that are going to be on Apex. You know, Apex is definitely up there with some of the robots like Deadlock, Boltergeist, Huntsman from Australia. These international robots we see apply for Battlebots year after year after year with little success or any success at all. We have seen Boltergeist almost get in a couple of times, but we do know that Team Danby has picked up some popularity and some success with a recent move to the US, and while Apex will likely be a UK-based robot, it will be interesting to see what happens from this point on with the new stuff that Team Danby and Apex are trying to bring to the table. So overall, this is a very interesting version of Apex here, something like we've never seen from Team Danby. I'm personally very fired up about it, but what are y'all's thoughts on this new version of Apex?
I'm excited, I suppose. Like, I've known Apex since the beginning really of its start, since Robot Wars was rebooted on air, and I loved the idea of it just being this small robot with this massive spinner on top of it. And it had like this uniquely designed spinner as it didn't have a uniquely designed spinner in its initial design. I mean, it just had the whole bar. But when this version came out, I thought it was really cool, and I hope it brings that kind of back someday. And this uniquely designed, I suppose, you know, omni wheel, varying height kind of design. I like the idea of it, though. My biggest concern, of course, is that if Apex will stay together and not break itself after one hit from its spinner, of course, since it's the last time that I suppose I saw it really in action, since I haven't really seen. And after like that many years, I suppose perfecting the design, I think at this point they probably have a lot of stability, but that machine really doesn't have much in terms of its ability to defend itself. It's got a lot of components in it that can be easily broken, and I can easily see one of those wheels breaking and effectively ruining its ability to, I suppose, fight back, since it's relying on 3 wheels, even though it's omni-drive. And if one of those wheels breaks, it's going to be less. It's going to be less stable, and it's not really going to have that ability to, I suppose, even in its ability to lift itself up. It can angle itself probably, but it loses a fair bit of functionality as soon as one of those wheels goes. And as I said, it's from what I've seen, I suppose, in terms of like its current work in progress and in terms of its build, its biggest protection is the overhead bar.
The weapon is the armor.
If that weapon stops working, or if that weapon causes itself to break a component on the robot, then I could quite easily see Apex being its own enemy in that way. But then again, this could be a very revolutionary design, and if it does well, then hats off to it. But it has to be making sure that weapons stay functional. Otherwise, the fight's going to end pretty quickly.
Yeah, you got a big weapon, a lot of the complexity, very similar to Triple Crown, you know. You have this fancy locomotion, you got a weapon that can provide a death hum. Sometimes it's a bit too much at once, you know. We look at, you know, you got this big, what's likely going to be the max weight for Battlebots weaponry, so this is probably going to be an 80-pound overhead bar on this robot. You know, you factor that in with, like, it's a Son of Waiachi style weapon right there, pretty much, and you're factoring that in with what is essentially 3 very complex systems. You got the Omni Wheel, you got the articulating legs pretty much on 3 different parts of this robot. Craig Danby has said that, you know, if they lose 1 or 2 wheels, that this robot should still be able to show some control movement. It should be able to gyro around and do some sort of helicopter-style strafing. That's at least what Craig Danby said in one of the early Facebook comments about this robot. Will be interesting to see that in action, because we are definitely going to see this robot get torn apart a little bit if it does get accepted. And I know I certainly wanted to see it get accepted. It's a great looking robot. It brings a lot of new things to the table, very much like, you know, our past 2 robots that we talked about here. But we do know with Craig Danby, he's a wondrous builder. He comes up with some amazing things, and this is just another one of those amazing robots right here. We do know that Chris Danby has gotten some experience behind the wheel with Apex at the May Portsmouth Extreme Robots event, so he would be a little bit prepared. Would be interesting to see what exactly this robot could do inside the battle box. Very fascinating.
I really want Apex to get in. I mean, I'm a big fan of Team Danby. They always make really cool robots, and this design is just really the articulating, like, arms that the wheels are on, like the Omni wheels, the spinner, like if this thing is driven right, this thing could seriously put on a really amazing show. And we hope that they get a chance to do that. I hope it works. I hope it gets some wins, and I'll be rooting for Apex for sure if it gets in.
Yeah, this is a robot that I know I was talking about with Trilobot. Give some of these robots the Battlebots Champions treatment. I want to see this bot get a full season, even if it has only 2 fights, if it loses spectacularly. This is a bot that's set to be spectacular, whether it be a win and a loss. I've been, in fact, clamoring for the past 3 years on various discords like King of Draft and Uda, even on Reddit, that I really want a Deep 6 versus Apex matchup, because I really do believe that Apex is about that horizontal spinner equivalent that Deep 6 brings to the vertical spinner class. It would just be so good. 2 glass cannons. I think Deep 6 would win that matchup, but I want to see those 2 weapons collide. I just want to see Apex and Battlebots. I think this robot has proven itself with the mileage. It has gradually found some more success. The robot has innovated itself and evolved throughout the many years that we've seen it compete already. It will be very fascinating to see this bot in the battle box, and I really do hope that 2022, maybe 2023, will finally be Apex's year. And there you go, 3 classic teams with new bots up and 3 classic teams with new bots down here with another applicant rundown. Going down all these robots one more time, I really do think that there is a lot of potential with a 250-pound version of HUGS and KISSES. Add in the vertical spinner, maybe a clamp, maybe bring a robot that is designed to control people. Bring them into that corner corral area of the shelf zone, and just bully robots. Bring them to the pulverizer, bring them to the saw. We haven't really seen a robot really designed to take advantage of these screws, saws, and hammers lately. And I think that would be a big chance to have something like that. Talking about our next robot, though, Trilobot, there's a lot of drama connected with Ed Robinson. I just want to repeat my point here. I really love what this Trilobot bot brings. I love the shed builds. I love the scrap builds. I think this robot will be perfect for a single elimination bracket like Battlebots Champions 2022 if that happens. But I do worry about the pit atmosphere with a team like that, given all the drama happening right now. It is a bit unfortunate because I am such a big fan of the Aqua Machine Force, but I guess we're just going to have to see what happens with that. And of course with the last robot, we really shouldn't have any problem getting Apex 250, Apex Mark V, whatever you want to call it, into this event. I think Chris Danby have a really unique robot here. Very fascinating set of motion. I love the idea of those pivoting arms, trying to articulate, designing different angles for Apex to hit. I want to see what happens when this robot hits other robots, how all these various pieces and parts of Apex Mark V are going to react. It's very fascinating to see all three of these robots bring very fascinating qualities with them. And I can't wait to talk about 3 and more when we bring you our next application rundown. We're putting together the 3 robots for that list as we speak. Very eager to bring you that later on down in a month or 2. Thank you so much for watching the Combot Collective, though. I'm going to get out of here. If you like what you're seeing here at the Combot Collective, please give us a like, comment, and a subscription here to our YouTube page. And please follow us on our social media pages. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and join our Discord channel. That's where all of our YouTube uploads drop first. Thank you so much for watching the Combot Collective. One more time with that. I am Sterling Brown, and we will see you next time.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.